Hello, everybody, and welcome to part two of the data collection series. Today, we're going to focus on ABC data. I am excited to have you all here today. I know that you are all ready to get home, but we do have to do these professional developments so that everyone can be on the same page and make sure that all of our students are getting exactly what they need. All right, so I'm going to try and make this quick. Let's get the ball rolling. Why do we take data? In applied behavior analysis, data drives all of our decisions. We use data to determine if a goal is mastered, when to switch or add new targets, or when to change teaching procedures to make more significant progress. Once the data is collected, it is reflected on visual tools that we use to assess targeted behaviors. We look at where the behavior is at the time of the recording, where it could go. Could we increase it? Could we decrease it? What are the potentials of that? Some of these visual charts that we use are line graphs, bar graphs, and pie charts. So, you should know that behavior data is integral to decreasing problem behavior and increasing the behaviors we want to see. Some of the problem behaviors that we have been seeing in this school is acts of aggression, screaming, tantrum behaviors, self-injurious behaviors, blatant disrespect. We want to see those things decrease. Some of the behaviors that we want to see increase are those good communication skills, those self-advocacy skills we are teaching future adults. We want to teach people how to be able to get out there and communicate in their relationships, communicate at work, communicate in all community activities where they're going to be engaging with other people, right? We want to be able to use coping skills when we see students being able to self-regulate. We want to increase that. Their compliance. If we ask our students to take out paper and pencil, we want them to take out paper and pencil. And if they do it, high five. We want them to keep doing it. So, some of the more problematic behaviors, or even the behaviors we want to keep seeing, not everyone knows what it looks like just from hearsay. If I say the student is having tantrums, could be someone's just an exchange student over here teaching from another country. They don't call it tantrums where they're from. They didn't learn tantrum. They don't know what that is. But if I say the student is threw themselves on the floor, is kicking his feet, is punching the air, is yelling and crying with or without tears, now you know exactly what behavior you're looking for. That's going to be called our operational definition of a behavior. And we can't develop a definition of behavior. We can't develop a function or a why the behavior is happening. We can't monitor the behavior. We can't do any of that without you. We can't do any of that if you're not recording data on a regular, daily, hourly basis in your classrooms. The data you're collecting helps us formulate predictions, and questions that need to be answered so that we can intervene between these students and their problematic behavior, or between these students and their adaptive behaviors. We measure these behaviors so that we can ensure that we're getting an accurate, reliable picture of what these behaviors are so that we can intervene. This is the base of behavior analysis. And I need your help. I need you to help me compile some data. Here's what some data looks like that some of our teachers are doing. These are some of you probably haven't seen these. These are in the classrooms where we have a multitude of superstar students that exhibit superstar behaviors, right? So this one is a time sampling. You don't need to know all the jargon there. But if you look here, we've got time, 9 to 9:30, and then we have numbers 1 through 7. These all signify a 5-minute time block between 9 and 9:30. So here's 9 o'clock, here's 9:05, here's 9:30. And within that 5 minutes, set a timer if you need, or you're just really awesome with time and you got your eyes on the clock. At 9 o'clock, from 9 o'clock to 9:05, did the student have a tantrum? How do we know we're looking for a tantrum? The operational definition of the behavior, I always put them in the data sheet, as a tantrum. Any instance of Joe engaging in two or more of the following behaviors: crying, bang on the floor, hitting, etc. It's there in the definition. Circle Y for yes if he did. Circle no if he did not, and then total it up at the end of the row. Okay? We're not focusing on time sampling today. We did that in our last series, but I just wanted you all to understand what we do with this data. So on the next slide, I will show you. And there it is. Visual analysis. So I took the data from that graph I just showed you, that table I just showed you, and put it into this graph. We can see at 9:30, Jaquan has one tantrum. 11:30, 2. 1:30, 1. Goes back down to 1. But at the end of the day, Jaquan has having a fit. He's had 10 tantrums. So now that we have the data and we've been taking data for a while, we can see that at 3:30, Jaquan is flipping out all the time. Now we can kind of try and get an idea of why. What's the significance of 3:30? I have marked here that that's the end of the day. What are some reasons behind that you would think behind Jaquan flipping out the end of the day? That is all behavior analysis is. We make these charts and we try and figure out, well, not all it is, but that's a big piece of it. And then we try and make a hypothesis. Why is this happening at this particular time with this particular student? So, why? Take a second, think about it. You might have said any of these things. He wants attention. He doesn't want to go home. He doesn't want to leave his friends or his teacher. He's hungry. He's got anxiety. Maybe there's something going on with him around transitioning, and that's the biggest transition on the way out of school. Maybe he's overstimulated. There's buses outside. Kids are chattering. Kids are in the hall. The announcements are going. Maybe he's being bullied on the bus. We just don't know. And if we don't have the data, we'll never know. The data at least helps us get an idea of what's going on with these behaviors. So what can you do? What is your part to make sure that our data is accurate? You're doing it. You are attending our professional development today. And by the end of this professional development, I hope I'll hand out a survey, and I hope that you all feel like you've learned how to properly fill one of these ABC data forms out. ABC data is what we're getting ready to get into now. ABC data recording, antecedent behavior and consequence recording. ABC recording the observer, which is you, teachers, me, yield a descriptive temporally sequenced account of all behaviors of interest and the antecedent conditions and consequences for those behaviors as those events occur in the client's natural environment. So, in layman's terms, natural environment, we're all in here. So that's going to be the school building, that's going to be the classroom, and we are getting a description of sequence account of the behavior, interest, and antecedent. So what happened? That's all that says. What happened? What was the behavior within the school building? What happened before? What actually happened? And then what happened as a result? Here's an example of an ABC record. Antecedent: an environmental condition or stimulus change existing or occurring prior to behavior of interest. For my example, I have at 2:40, T tells student to work quietly on their math worksheet. T is an abbreviation for teacher. So that's the antecedent. The teachers ask the students to work on their worksheets. Now it's an ABC record, so we know there's going to be behavior. Maybe you're starting to think ahead of me a little bit. What do you think the behavior was? What did this student do? I don't know, you might have a particular student in mind who gives you some sort of something every time you ask them to do anything. Behavior: The portion of an organism's interaction with its environment that involves movement of some part of the organism. In other words, an organism, a living thing, and its interaction with the environment. An action, something the living thing did. So a behavior, we all know essentially what a behavior is, but its definition, we have to define these things. Behavior is something that a living organism has done, an action. So what did the student do after the teacher asked them to get some math done? Walked around the room, starts looking at other students. The consequence, a stimulus change that follows a behavior of interest. Some consequences, especially those that are immediate and relevant to current motivational states, have significant influence on future behaviors. Others have little effect. So, a consequence. So, we know the student got asked to do work. That was the antecedent, right? The behavior was the student gets up, starts walking around. Notice I didn't interject my opinion. I didn't say he started walking around with an attitude or he started walking around because he was trying to find his cup because he was thirsty. I don't know why he was walking around. All I know is I saw him get up, saw him walk around. That's all I can write down is what I saw him actionably do. Consequence, the teacher says, everyone's working but you. I don't need to tell you what to do. Sounds like the teacher gave him a verbal prompt, a reminder. Hey, man, I need you to sit down and get your work done. Right? I don't know if that's a nice way for the teacher to have said it. But again, so the consequence is, what was the consequence of the student walking around? Here's a full ABC data record, because when we are recording ABC data, we're not just looking at one isolated incident or one isolated behavior. If it is just one behavior, that's great. We've got one behavior we have to focus on. We can focus all of our energy on that, and hopefully we can intervene. We can create an intervention. But a lot of times there's going to be a multitude of behaviors, and we want to look throughout the day. We don't, like, for example, this data record is just in his math resource room that he is in from 2:40 to 3 o'clock, right? But what about when he's in geography or when he's in the gym, or we want to always be taking a record of the behaviors we're seeing from this student, maladaptive, and if you want, adaptive behaviors as well. Maybe you notice that the student has been particularly helpful, so you start writing down these behaviors. Just notice a friend was crying would be the antecedent, for an example. Student walked up and gave friend a hug. Friend stopped crying, for a consequence. You know? Okay, so here's the procedure for recording ABC data. You're going to record everything the client does and says, or excuse me, student does and says. We're not interjecting our opinion. Please remember, we want to be as objective as we can. We're going to use homemade shorthand or abbreviations to make recording more efficient. So you don't have time to sit down and log out a whole ABC record. Especially you're in the middle of teaching. Maybe you've got 2 kids you're observing in your classroom and in that particular period. So write down like told student get up, student walked, whatever. Just, use letters. If it makes sense to you, it makes sense to you, as long as you go back and fill it out properly when you've got a spare minute. You want to record, you all get a copy of this as well, and I do have a paper handout with the instructions, just so when you get back to your class or you go back and you have your grade team meeting, you could really go over how to fill out some of these ABC data forms. So you're going to record the duration of the instance. Here we're just going to put time and setting. What classroom were they in? What was the classroom doing? And what time of day was it? Be aware that most people behave differently when they see someone with a pencil and clipboard staring at them. Anyone would. If the student was told to do math, got up and started walking around, so the teacher went over, pulled out a pen and paper, and wrote down and is just jotting down things while looking at the student. He's gonna either act up or he's gonna do what? He's gonna shut down. So we're not gonna get an accurate recording of of the purpose of this behavior, the why, the function of this behavior, because the student is behavior is dependent upon the fact that the teacher is now staring and writing down my actions. Are they going to call my mom? Oh no. Right. So you want to do it inconspicuously. Again, use abbreviations, but when you get a time, when you get a chance, you can go back and fill it in fully. We're also carrying out observation over a period of several days. Okay. I will, once you start to approach me, after having filled out some of these ABC data forms, and we have gone away from the process of collecting the baseline data, and we're starting to get into doing behavior assessments, behavior plans. We can sort of step back from on a daily basis with a particular kid. We can step back a little bit and more use it as an incident report. But for the time being, we're going to record these behaviors that we're seeing with a student daily, sometimes hourly. So let's practice. We're going to watch this video, and I'm going to do the first one. We've got 3 of these videos. I'm going to do the first. I'm going to have us both do the second, and then I'd like for you to do the third on your own. We don't need to write anything down, right? We'll just do this orally. But let's look at a behavior here and try to identify the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence.
Okay, you're going to listen to all your favorite songs, and I'm just going to be over here doing some work, okay? Oh no, don't forget! Come on, you can listen to our favorite songs. Yeah, let's sit back up. Now, to listen to our songs, I'm just going to be over here, okay? In the attention condition.
So, antecedent. We've got a teacher and a student. We're monitoring the student, the one with the phone. And the student is, I don't know why the student and the teacher are in this situation. Maybe he's earned free time or quiet time, or who knows. And the teacher gives the student a phone and tells the student to hang out. So the antecedent is the teacher gives the student a phone and tells the student to enjoy this time, right? The behavior then is what? What sort of behavior seems socially inappropriate here? At first, he's just sitting on the phone. Nothing wrong with that. And then you see the student looking around. You can write that down as a behavior. You could see the student puts his phone on the teacher's desk. He appears fidgety. You can put that down. Or the ultimate, the bigger one, is that he gets out of his chair and he sits on the floor with his phone in his hand, right? And then the consequence of that behavior is that the teacher prompts the student to get off the floor, physically assists the student off the floor, places the student back in a chair. Let's get into the next one.
Okay, well, what you're going to do is draw a lovely picture for me, and I'm just going to be sitting right here doing my work, okay? Super.
And can I have a sweet?
Oh, later, yeah. After you draw your picture. No, Bob. Not now. Okay. Here you go. Here you go. There you go. You sit back up and we'll do our drawing. Yeah. No, Bob. We said later.
Right.
No, we said later.
I want it now.
Okay. One more. Here we go. Now, There you go.
Okay, so, excuse me. What happened here? What was the antecedent? Someone give me the antecedent. That one might have been hard to pick out. If I were recording data on here, the antecedent for me would be that the teacher asked the student to draw and then placed some candy within the student's line of sight. Somebody give me the behavior. Yeah, the student's crying, the student's getting on the floor, students trying to grab the candy, any of those work. And then the consequence was absolutely the teacher removed the candy. The teacher had to physically prompt the student to sit back in his seat. Good job, guys. Let's see if you can do the next one on your own.
Or even a second long.
Okay, Bob, we're going to do our work now. Okay, work is finished. No more work. Okay, let's try one more time. Let's do our work. Okay, work is finished. Work is finished.
All right, somebody tell me antecedent, behavior, consequence. Absolutely. Antecedent, student was asked to do work. Behavior, student dropped to the floor, crying, whining, wherever you have it. Consequence, teacher took the work away. Great job. All right, that brings us back to the end of today's training. Today you were trained in how to complete an ABC data record, we did some practice together, had you do some practice alone. To wrap us up, do remember that data recording is necessary and integral to intervening in some of these behaviors that we've been experiencing with our students. Every member is essential to this process. All data is essential to this process. And it is so important, so valuable, the work that you do and recording this data. You've done an amazing job today in this module. And before we head out, I have handed out an ABC data form to everyone. And I want you all to think of a behavior within the last 24/7, one of your behaviors or behavior of someone you wouldn't mind recording or who wouldn't mind you recording their behavior. Obviously not a student on the empty form, because you're going to use that as sort of an outline for your future practice and recording this data. So for me, say I got one of these data forms, I'm going to take the form, I'm going to put my antecedent as I had a Monster drink in front of me, okay? The behavior was, and I drank it, right? The antecedent, I had a Monster energy drink and drank it. The behavior was, I did not sleep. I didn't sleep at all. I'm operating on no sleep right now. I have been up for about 32 hours, right? The consequence is that I am exhausted. I am very tired. So I want you all to do the same thing with one of your own behaviors. Use your dog. I don't know, use a made-up name. But I just want to see before you head out that you can do an ABC recording. Once I check you off, you're good to go. Does anyone have any questions? Great. Thank you. Have a great day.